Gaming to me has always been for the rich. If you can't buy the game 3 times, you shouldn't really be playing it. If you have to find a way to download cheap versions, free versions, you're just not meant to play.
Well, isn't this just precious? I already thought it was pretty funny that there were people online assuming that the issue I and many other people had with these increase of prices across the industry was because we were poor, as if the only thing that could determine whether or not you should spend money on something is if you have money, which is ironically a poor man's mentality. And I don't say that to be offensive, but when you speak to pretty much anybody that's built themselves up from rags to riches, or heck, even somebody that was born rich and remained rich, more often than not you find that these people are very calculated about what they spend their money on. That's partially why some of the wealthiest people you may know are often the stingiest. They have an idea of what's worth their money and what isn't. I won't necessarily imply that they're smarter. A lot of times this comes from a place of privilege, and sometimes their stinginess is a little bit too stingy, to the point where it might be embarrassing. But the point is, part of being wealthy is not just having money. It's also knowing when you should or shouldn't spend your money on something that isn't worth the market value, especially when something is a lot more of a luxury. Like, we're talking about actual video games, we're talking about toys. We're not talking about the skyrocketing prices of houses, nor the current value of a car. We're talking about toys. Entertainment. Which is why when it comes to entertainment, it's actually a lot easier to convince somebody to vote with their wallet because they don't necessarily need to spend that money. And I know usually the counter to that is that if you don't want to buy something, just stop talking about it and don't buy it. But that won't solve anything or lead to change. Especially when multiple times in this very industry, I have seen an uproar cause a company to completely do an 180, to decrease their prices, to get pushed back, and that pushback is usually good for another decade or so. So it's actually very important for people that have a platform to speak out against these practices in order to adjust the gaming industry, especially in a
So far, nothing to really talk about, so I'll just pause it because, you know, what's the word? Transformative, YouTube transformative. Nothing to say really right now. So yeah, transformative.
in a post-pandemic world where companies are assuming that because people were okay with spending whatever they spent on for a solid 3 years, if not more, then that means they can just continue to increase prices at an unprecedented rate. And I realize the price of everything around us is going up, but the difference is with the gaming industry, if we were to push back, prices would go down and they would still find ways to make plenty of money. They've always found ways to make plenty of money. That's never been an issue. Because the bottom line at the end of the day is they want people to buy their consoles so they can buy the software. And literally in every...
I don't think they want regular everyday people to buy their stuff. It's gaming to me has always been for the rich. If you can't buy the game 3 times, you shouldn't really be playing it. If you have to find a way to download cheap versions, free versions, you're just not meant to play. Simple as that.
Single console generation up until this point, there has been at least one major price adjustment within the first year of a console's launch. And outside of Sega, nobody collapsed because of it. And quite frankly, if you actually look into the history of Sega, their collapse was a whole different story. It was not even remotely because people were like, we refuse to pay this price for this console, so now everybody's got to get fired. Plus, if you consider the fact that over the past decade, if not 2 decades, we've been paying the prices that they ask us to pay. And despite that, at no point in time has there been a consistent comfort throughout the gaming industry. Whether we pay $80 for games or not, there will still be, on average, absolutely awful worker experiences. The layoffs will still happen, the burnout will still be very hot, and the pockets of every CEO will just get even more full. That's just the reality. There's no indication that with the increase of the price of anything, will the money be properly distributed to the people that deserve it. So don't be fooled into the thought that just because you're paying an extra $10 for your game, it means the developer is earning their money. It's all a fallacy to try to get you to humanize the corporation, because it's not.
Yeah, you're right about that. That extra $10 won't really make a difference in the long scheme of things. It's just a ploy to get you to, have pity and all that nonsense. Yeah.
Never the person that's getting their hands dirty that's actually benefiting from this. And oftentimes, it's not even an employee of the company, it's just a contractor. And the third-party contractors are hired because they can get away without worrying about any of the benefits that would normally come from working for a corporation. And that contractor is gonna get paid the same whether or not you buy the game. Which is precisely why I have a major issue with the former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida insisting that $70 or $80 games are a steal. Because of course he would insist that. Which businessman would not insist that the product that they were involved in is worth more than it actually is? Which multimillionaire would not go out there and tell people that something that's expensive is actually not that expensive? Clearly, if this...
He's right, it's not that expensive on the long scheme of things. Like I said, it's meant for the rich. I'll say the 1%, but they have to make it seem like it's for regular people when most of the people I know can't even afford to get like 3 games. They have to save up to buy 1 game and then pirate the rest or some illegal garbage. So, like I said, if you can't buy the game 3 times, it's not meant for you.
Smart and rich man is doing it, we should all follow suit and spend money on this stuff that this smart and rich man is telling us is worth spending money on, right? That's the kind of message we want to send to everybody here, because that's just how the world runs these days. When the rich folks speak, everybody must listen, because clearly the rich man knows what he's saying since he is indeed a rich person. The funny thing is, this has always been the case, right? This is not something that is exactly new, but through most of my life, it was hidden behind a veil to give you this false idea of equality. But now it just feels like ancient Rome, where the rich set all of the rules and everybody else must follow. And the rich don't even need to argue their case anymore because they convinced the working class to do all of the fighting for them. So now you got a bunch of people that are your equals who have glorified these corporations, being their first line of defense and attempting to steer the narrative in the favor of the corporations. Meanwhile, their fellow customer is just a rage baiter, a clickbaiter, a grifter, or someone that's looking for attention. But the
They're pretty much what you just described for real though. They're not lying. Sorry to tell you that, man. It's for the rich.
Former executive of Sony, Yoshida, all of a sudden, all of the fanboys are praising his name. Not just Sony fanboys, Xbox fanboys as well, and especially Nintendo fanboys. Because, we Nintendo fans have always had a little bit of inferiority complex. We want the Sony guys and the Microsoft guys to think we're cool too. We want people to think Mario Kart 8 is the most expensive game in the world because it validates our purchase of our Switches and our lifelong allegiance to Nintendo. That's why we're also excited to tell everybody that Cyberpunk 2077 looks just as good on the Switch 2 as it does on the PS5, even though it very clearly doesn't. Which, don't get me wrong, is fine. I don't expect a Nintendo console to look as good as it does on the PS5. Well, unless I'm paying PS5 prices or close to it, but that's besides the point. Whatever the case is, don't lie and claim that it runs as well as the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, we know Nintendo is not about graphics. They're about gameplay. Always have been, always will be.
I swear the people that make that claim are the ones that are never going to buy Cyberpunk 2077 because they're Nintendo fans. You don't buy Cyberpunk 2077 if you're a Nintendo fanboy. But seemingly, people just want that validation that we have that big boy title and it's on Nintendo's console. And it's worth every penny because the rich man from Sony said that it was worth it. It just honestly gets weirder and weirder to read some of these things that I'm seeing online over the past few months. And it kind of stinks that you don't see the faces or the ages of these people that are speaking to you. Because at the end of the day, I don't know who it is that is defending these prices. Like, even ignoring the fact that it could be
I'm defending these prices. I'm defending them.
bot or it could be a marketing company that actually works for Nintendo or Sony or Xbox. Let's say it's just a real human being in front of my face. I'm a dude in his mid-30s, so naturally my brain leans towards that thought when I'm speaking to somebody online. And I'm not saying that speaking to somebody in the mid-30s would have the same mindset as I do, but at least I can be like, well, we have the same experience, and you disagree with me, let's have a back and forth about it. But sometimes I read these comments and I'm like, you're either A, way older than I am, and value video games and your priorities very differently than I do. Maybe you're just somebody that has given up on everything related to society and you're okay dropping an extra 10 bucks on Mario Kart. Fine. Or B, I could be arguing with a 16-year-old who's calling me poor because I'm not dropping $450 on a Switch 2. And once again, I think this is a problem that's much bigger than the gaming industry, but it
You're pretty poor, man. Sorry to say.
just is a reality of when you see these discussions happening online. You legitimately don't know who's saying the stuff behind the comment. But even despite all of that, one of the most annoying things about these increase in prices is that while
Frozen? Are these the hacker gods right now speaking? Doing what they do best? Okay. Do what you do. Let's see here. Let's restart this. No connection. That's awesome. This is something I deal with all the time. The hacker trolls, man. But that was a very good video. And, you know, I really believe that it's for the rich. Always have been, always will be. Peace.